Okay guys, welcome back to the channel. So today we have a new contender in the player cavity, hollow body kind of iron category with a twist. So essentially EDEL SMS, which stands for Swing Match System. They've kind of made a removable weight that you can change the weight to kind of match your swing is what they're stating. So hollow body urethane foam kind of inner with these movable weights.
Yeah, definitely a lot of the popular design characteristics that we're seeing from the market right now and irons that are working really, really well. Think of P770, we think of HMB from Mizuno, Callaway have it with their Apex Pro, that type of technology, but definitely the movable weight system at the back where they're taking some of the tech that's been used in drivers, CG shifter, in the drivers and putting that into an iron is pretty interesting. We don't all hit it in the middle. It would be ideal if we had the mass behind the strike the whole time, but that's just not reality, is it? So, moving this weight system around a little bit to suit the strike, suit the delivery of the player, I'm curious about it.
Yeah, I mean, there's not much else on the market like that I've seen that's kind of fits the player cavity and not overly chunky. So it'll be interesting to see how much it actually does. So I think that's all we got to do today is actually get in here, kind of swinging some shots with it and see how much they actually do.
See how it is, yeah. I mean, so we've got an 8 gram, the heaviest is the 8, and we've got 2 2s. So, shifting that around a little bit, and we'll get into that, like you said. We'll test it at standard, wedge, 7 and 4. Then we'll come back and start playing with it a little bit.
So let's start with the pitching wedge here. So we've set that pin to 130 yards.
Yeah.
45-degree of loft on this.
Feels fine, feels nice.
Yeah, I was gonna say initial feel.
Yeah.
Feels okay?
Feels absolutely fine. Doesn't feel like hollow body. I think we're all just waiting on like the first couple of strikes. Like, oh, do they feel jumpy, hot? Is the pitch a little high?
Yeah, I was gonna say that the pitch is something that I normally pick out. They don't
feel or sound like that, do they? No, I think they're all right. Probably the best strike of the 3.
Could be very good.
Yeah, exactly what I would expect.
Pretty much bang on, feel-wise, sound-wise, everything seems pretty good there. Kind of giving you the numbers we'd want to see in a kind of a pitching wedge, would you say?
Yeah, I mean, definitely I caught the
You normally hit it a little higher, right?
Yeah, yes, exactly. But for me, to be honest, I mean, we just done a little comparison on my irons. I have a baseline ball speed number from my own irons at 110 miles an hour. My wedge is only 2 degrees stronger than that. It's 43 versus 45. So a little, maybe a little worrying on the ball speed number there. I mean, maybe if we disable actually shot 2 as a miss, let's maybe be fair to the iron, just say that was a bad one. Let's hit one more. Yeah, maybe just a little bit of, I hadn't quite warmed the speed up or whatever. That's more like it. That's
up to
that's
comparable.
Speed-wise and stuff is about where I'd expect to see my speed, and with the speed came the height.
Perfect. So we'll go through the kind of pitching wedge, 7-iron, 4-iron, and then we'll maybe make a couple swings where we change that weighting around and see how much that actually can do. Again, sound doesn't sound too bad with them. I'm not hearing anything that's kind of crazy, which sometimes you can with these hollow body clubs, especially if it's their first generation of them doing it.
Yeah. These are definitely going to fall into the probably larger of the player cavity or hollow body players' irons. As you get into the 7, it does have a decent size head on it. Yeah. Reasonably thick in the top line. Definitely not 770, P770, more P790, more. They're definitely bigger than HMBs, that's for sure. So handicap-wise, if we were going to categorize it, 5 to 15,
right,
somewhere in there.
Yeah. Really good there.
Quite similar to the other ones. If we had 4 stickers on it, we would probably see it was a hair thinner. So probably lost the ball speed a little bit, but decent.
Yeah, not bad. I mean, it's still retained a little bit of that, only
Yeah.
being a couple mile per hour.
I like the feel of the 7 more than I like the feel of the wedge.
Yeah.
Wedges are funny for me.
I agree with the hollow body. Like anything hollow body in that category, whenever I hit the pitching wedge, it generally gets better as the club gets longer.
Absolutely. It's almost like the wedge doesn't have enough, or there's too much loft to really activate the hollow body. So it doesn't feel the same as the rest of the set.
Yeah,
That
I'd
7
agree with
felt,
that.
honestly, that felt great.
Yeah, it actually sounded really
Yeah.
good. Those last 3 that you kind of caught pretty nice were sounded awesome.
So loft on this-
Initial thoughts of the look of the 4-iron, is it?
Fine.
Yeah, I was gonna say the 4-iron. I was kind of taking. I mean, I'm not right-handed, but
Yeah.
looking down at the 4-iron, it didn't look too chunky or anything.
Definitely.
Not a crazy top line. It looked pretty good.
It looks absolutely fine. It looks forgiving. Looks very, very standard. It doesn't feel like it's too small or too big. It's just right in the middle for what you'd look at a 4-iron. I thought the 7-iron was on the large side, but the shape and the size of the head fits a 4-iron. It seemed a hair big for me on a 7.
Good swing there.
Yeah, that one felt good.
Sounds good.
So 210, yeah, I mean, that'd be about bang on. Actually, I'd actually say that's pretty quick for 23-degree loft. Again, if we go back to the conversation we had when we were filming the 14 irons, the 4-iron was at 20 degrees, and we kind of said that was like a 220 club. So, 3 degrees less, 3 yards per 1 degree of loft, 210's bang on.
Yep.
Really, really nice. An apex at 108. So
That's right. Kind of in that window you're saying you like it.
I definitely like that land angle at 45 is good too. Similar.
Yeah, it was very similar. Yeah, pretty much bang on the same.
Yeah, I feel like those are very kind of representative of like a well-struck 4, what it should do. It was nice.
Perfect. Yeah, I mean, very similar things what it was doing there. It was pretty much bang on. Spin kicked up on that one, maybe caught a little bit different.
Face angle, hair more open, so if the other ones drew a little bit, that one, stayed a little bit more to the right, so just retained a bit more loft from the face angle.
Yeah.
But 208 as an average carry number, 111 feet. Yeah, I'd be over the moon.
Yeah,
Putting
no,
those in someone's
honestly,
hands.
it's pretty good.
Shaft-wise as well, I mean, this is the big boy Dynamic Gold X100. I play the little brother, the 120.
Yeah.
So with a little bit more weight in there, probably not ideal for me with a 4-iron, try to flight it high, but it's a good combination, and I think the head does mask a little bit of the shaft characteristics to still flight it up.
Yeah, absolutely. Good. Yeah, it makes sense. Okay, let's get into a little bit of the technology behind these.
Okay.
Stating that you can make the iron fit your swing.
Yeah.
So what we're gonna do is, as we said at the start here, the side weights on these right now, 2 grams, and then the red one in the middle is set to 8 grams.
Yeah.
So we'll just kind of monkey around with those and see if we can spot any differences with ball flight, contact, anything that really stands out.
I think there as well, like I was probably fighting a little bit of right to left and maybe had a little left miss in there, so it will be interesting when the heavyweight goes to the heel. Like, does that allow me to no longer, save that shot? And then if we put it in the toe, does it really straighten that shot out?
Right. Okay, so we're gonna start initial testing. We're gonna put the weight in the heel.
Yep.
You said your tendency, you are get a little left with it, so this could potentially make that far worse.
Yeah, I mean, when we look at irons and we call irons that are workable, right? That kind of quote unquote, kind of that means the technology is pulled out. And when we talk about technology in irons, it's normally MOI or an increase in MOI, which is normally weight in the toe. This should make this iron easier to work, right? So when we don't have the weight in the toe to offset the long and heavy hosel, we can then shape it right to left and left to right a little bit more. So this should make this the most kind of in the player's setting.
Okay.
And then the other one would be the highest MOI setting. Low heel for sure.
Low heel.
better.
Definitely sounded more middled there.
A little higher up the head, certainly, but maybe still heely.
Okay. Sounded good.
Yeah, that was quite good. That was quite nicely struck.
So you would say, like, I know you were kind of discussing before how putting that weight in the heel, that you might see something like that potentially as a miss.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, the left miss scares the life out of me.
Yeah.
Like, it causes worse swings for me. It causes me to be defensive and guidey. Yeah, I would generally struggle if I started to see the ball turn over too much like that. Yeah, that wouldn't be a good sign.
In theory, if what they're saying is kind of matches, if we had jammed the weight on the toe with that same type strike, we might see that flight. I mean, obviously, face was shot, it's probably going to go a little left, but maybe hang on a little bit more counterbalance maybe.
Yeah, and we probably have to think of it, be good to think of it in a slightly different way from the woods, because we aren't dealing with bulge and roll as well, so we're not dealing with as much gearing on the face. So I think this comes down to the mass and where we see, you know, obviously these strikes are all slightly heely, so we've got the weight in the heel, so they're probably quite good from a ball speed perspective.
Yeah.
But there's definitely a part of we're deflecting the head a little bit more than we would like. I mean, we've not got as much weight in the toe to kind of resist that. And I'm feeling quite a lot of that impact. Any of the ones where I see the ball kind of go left, I'm like, it's just the head is being deflected left.
It's pulling that way.
Yeah. Whereas, you know, obviously, I think in today's scenario, we could probably do with a little bit of resistance against that.
Yeah, for sure.
Are quite similar, to be honest. I mean, you know, I think all the strikes are kind of right in the same spot.
Yeah,
it's exactly where I feel it.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if we can, obviously, if your strike stays there when we move this weight to a different spot in the face, if anything changes, or if the ball flight changes while still maintaining that strike pattern.
Definitely. And obviously we're looking at things like, what does it do to the angle of attack? What does it do to the path? What does it do to the face? Does it let that 3D delivery shift slightly around to the point where, you know, you can actually make a better swing at it by having a more stable shot pattern?
Okay, so we've put the weight now. We've got all the weight in the toe of the club, so opposite of what we were just playing in the heel. So it'll be interesting to see kind of what happens.
Generally speaking, as it typically goes, the more the ball goes left, the more the swing starts to go right, and actually it makes the whole situation worse. The reason we're hitting it, you know, right to left in the first place is kind of the path gets a little inside and we end up releasing the face. And that kind of happened a little bit there. I had to kind of start to control the delivery to try and stop making it go left. If I see this ball going a little more to the right, I should actually, in theory, start to swing a little bit more neutral, and I should see that path number be more neutral.
Okay.
Very interested to see if that happens. What was interesting about that is the strike shifted. Immediately felt...
pretty much, I mean, you were close to middle there.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Like I felt that immediately less in the heel for sure. I couldn't have told you it was middle. I thought I would have probably guessed it was slightly toe, but it definitely felt different.
Okay.
Nice and neutral. Yeah, the strike has shifted for sure.
Yeah, it's definitely, I mean, it's sounding a lot different even. I mean, you're butting it, kind of hitting it right in the middle now, essentially. I wish
I was good enough to be in control of moving the strike 4 or 5 millimeters like this. I'm not. I can promise you that. And you know, this is nice. There's also one other little subplot here which is quite fascinating. If you go to the table on the trajectories, so I was seeing the toe being deflected down more when the weight's in the toe. So moving the weight more toe side, sort of somewhat pulling the toe down a little bit, that would make a ton of sense, right? So our weight, you know, is on the outside of the club, making it do slightly that more in deflection, downward deflection. That would be an interesting one to hit a couple more shots and see if that... Now, the last one neutralized it quite a bit because it went from... I saw the 6 and went, holy moly, that's a lot toe down. And then 4-6 is more in what I normally see. See a couple more.
Kind of good there.
Yeah, pretty decent. Again, there's a more neutral strike pattern. Probably the biggest thing we're seeing is the strike being less than the heel, and I'm not feeling that deflection shut anymore.
Right.
So the last two were good.
Okay, so we've got a bit of data there with both the heel and the toe weight. Pretty interesting kind of, I mean, you had suspicions this would be the case. Maybe you get the strike a little different. We weren't sure to the extent that it would, just with how little, like 8 grams of weight is obviously not a ton in an iron head that already weighs quite a bit.
Right.
But, I mean, a little bit of a difference there.
Yeah, I mean, there's a perfect little illustration right there. So the green one had a little bit of turn. So, you know, spin was in the middle with the green one. It was less with the heel weight because the face rotated. It was more with the weight in the toe because the dynamic loft was retained. I mean, I think that's a pretty cool illustration to the fact that it's working nicely.
And you made a good point to me earlier, just with the shaft being an X100, maybe a lot of people in this category wouldn't be using an X100, would be going with more of like a lighter shaft, so it might actually impact it more in terms of shaft droop and all that stuff that can happen through the swing with more weight in the toe or heel. So we might not notice it as much because that's obviously a pretty bulky shaft, but it could change based on shaft weight.
I think so. Yeah, I think depending, again, different forces being applied by the golf swing, whether you force the club down more in that action, you know, you could potentially, with the weight in the toe, make the shaft deflect more downwards, throwing that toe into more downward deflection. I mean, as a club fitter, this is kind of a dream to be able to manipulate more things in the delivery that are going to neutralize a shot shape. But if a client walked into me and said, yeah, I'm really not hitting it very good, I'm missing it left, and all of a sudden we could you know, change the weight configuration. We can use the lie, we can use grip, you know, size, we can use shaft weight, we can use balance point. Like, all these things are in your toolbox to make that ball flight more neutral, and every one of them is welcome.
It'd be interesting to see if more brands start maybe testing this for future. I know iron technology is always evolving, but it's something I think it makes sense. So it'll be interesting to see if other brands hop on this board and kind of see if it's direction they'll take it.
You could see TaylorMade, couldn't you, with their shifter technology, putting a rail in the back and having a weight that kind of slides, you know, back and forward, and doing something like that with like a stealth iron that's a little bit bigger. I mean, the bigger the iron, the more influence you can have on moving the weight property heel and toe. So, you know, that's, you know, I'm sure any company might be looking at that, but I just think of TaylorMade specifically because they're the ones that tend to do the rail across the back.
Yeah, it makes sense. All right, guys, well, I hope you enjoyed that video. If you get a chance to maybe go out and try these, let us know what you think. Obviously, the data shows that it could be pretty effective for people. So, yeah, let us know what you think, and we'll see you soon.